Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports' Order. Tonight, we got a lot of football to get into as the 49ers set up first and goal. We got some college football. We got some NFL. Myself, 2-5, and the one and only, Even Keel, born in Texas, raised in VA, representing New Jerusalem, though he does not want to be associated with this team on your screen right now. Do not bring feelings to a fact fight. Mr. Logical. And do us a favor out there. Like, reviews, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. And of course, I want to get this thing started with, get it off my chest. And it starts now.
Yeah. Ladies, prepare to lose your husbands and boyfriends and fantasy football friends for the next 5-6 months. It's going to be football all the time. All the time is football. So, might get off my chest is, football is getting consumed everywhere. So now it's even like a little reality TV show behind the scenes. We've all been seeing clips of Hard Knocks with the Giants and their GM Joe Sheen, or however you say his name. I'm starting to think that these GMs got a bit of a God complex. And they think that they can make anything happen because they're in this position. Hey, I'm the GM. I'm the general manager. I call all the shots. No one wants to have a $40 million quarterback give the ball to a $12 million running back. Well, no one told you to make that dude a $40 million quarterback. You could have made him a $22 million quarterback, and he wouldn't be able to argue because nobody else is going to give him more than $23 million. That's where you messed up. And he only been there a couple of years. Then you saw the clip where he called Saquon and was like, hey, I want you to test the market. And then before the end of the conversation, he talked about how he was, loved having him there for the 2 years that he was there. And was talking in past tense during the same conversation. So he was like, give me your word. You'll come back and let us know. He was like, come back and what? He was like, you already know where I'm at. You already know what I want. What am I coming back for? And at the subtitle or the title of the video was like the call that got Saquon to Philly. Like it just you knew it was happening then. And I was talking with a guy at work about this today, and I was like, GMs and coaches and people of power in certain positions, we'll talk about it more in the NFL, a couple of things that I noticed. They rather do the simple thing and be right. Like the video that prompted this kind of statement was Vince Vaughn. They asked him about why people don't make the same kind of comedic movies that they did in the early 2000s that they do now. He was like, well, people in those positions, as long as they stick to whatever the format is, if it fails or is successful, they can lean back on, I stuck to the format. I hired the young hot actor, the young hot social media icon. I got this writer. This was the story. We stayed away from these topics. And it didn't work, but I followed the blueprint that's out there. And the guy said, he was like, people are more afraid of failure than the desire they have to be successful. And that was a quote the guy, I was like, that was dope. I'm like, I'm gonna say that on the show. So these GMs, like, yeah, you're spending the owner's money. The owner came in and said, listen, if I see Saquon in Philly, I'm not gonna be able to sleep. So in my mind, you just gave me essentially a blank check to write him a check for 2 years, $13 million, 26 total. And then when he comes back to you, like, yo, you said you didn't want to see him in Philly. Philly was going to give him $13 million. We had to give him $14 million to balance off the taxes or whatever the case may be. But like, take that step because you can still get fired following the blueprint. You might as well follow your own because you'll get the same amount of time because he's fired after this year. I don't know if he saw what happened yesterday with Sam Darnold sliced him up. And then on top of the fact you didn't get the corners you wanted because you didn't want to give up a 4th round pick It's like, how many fourth round picks do you have in your starting rotation right now? To the point where this current draft, you're like, I want to hold on to this fourth round pick. Look at your team. Do you have a lot of fourth round picks making big plays? Maybe, maybe not. Trade that shit up and get Kool-Aid McKinstry, get Lasser. But now you got a good safety, but that's not who you wanted because you're afraid to break the mold. You want the status quo, and now you're going to be out of a job anyway. So that's all I'm saying. Like, listen, if you can go out there and get this same check, you might as well have a little fun with it. Because what you put on the field yesterday was trash. I mean, the uniform started off wrong. Like, if you're going to bring Lawrence Taylor and Bill Parcells out there, you should have played a game in their uniform. No one cares about football 100 years ago. There's no black people playing. We don't care about football back then. So,
hey, you know what, though? You never know, man. I mean, the one and only Rain Dakota Prescott was a fourth round draft pick. And look at him, the $60 or the $60 million man now.
Oh yes, I'm not saying that it didn't have value, but if you look at the Giants roster, they made.
Oh no! Don't start shots fired. Start the show.
I'm calling Mark Zuckerman and said you threatened me. Blocked.
All right, so as the great Woody Page would say, it's time for me to set you straight. So, of course, you know, every week during the college football season, the AP top 25, the coaches poll comes out. Everybody has these arguments. We don't have the answers to any of these questions, but we believed in the preseason poll, so we just going to keep arguing about it anyway. Well, let me do some arguing because all offseason, y'all lied to me and America and said that Michigan was a top 10 team. They are the reigning national champions. But Blake Corum is gone. J.J. McCarthy's gone. Chris Jenkins is gone. Sanistrill's gone. There's a whole lot of those Michigan players that were on that team last year that are not there now. So Texas beats them at the Big House. Why Texas ain't number one? Because all I heard about was how Georgia dominated Clemson, which they did. But then their other win is against a FCS team, Tennessee Tech. You know, do it against the Vols. You know, they said, yeah, they did. They said Free Shoe was elite as well. And then you go from there. You know, we saw the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, who was ranked number 5. They lost to the Huskies. And no, it wasn't Washington. It was Northern Illinois. Now, maybe they were wrong about the MAC because Northern Illinois beat Notre Dame. Ohio made Syracuse sweat, who went and beat Georgia Tech, who beat Florida State. Then you got Bowling Green losing by 1 score in Happy Valley, and they had a 10-point lead at one point in that game. You put Northern Illinois in the top 25 at number 25 and still got Notre Dame 7 spots ahead of them. So I guess head-to-head really doesn't matter. You know, Ohio State. Why is Ohio State ahead of Tennessee? Because when I look at it, I see a whole lot of Akron. I see some Broncos that are not from Boise, Western Michigan. And then you turn around, kick Boise out the top 25 for losing a 3-point game at Eugene. You moved up Oklahoma State 3 spots after they got outgained 300 yards by a team that y'all keep telling us they're going to fire their coach. Like, if you go and vote, don't treat it like the presidential election and treat it as the lesser of two evils. You have the power to do the right things. Do all the free things. Do all the good things.
If you follow the blueprint, you don't ruffle any feathers.
I guess so. I mean, yeah, like somebody
really should go with the idea that I came up with years ago, which is like they shouldn't do any rankings until October.
You can't be ranked until you play another Power 5 school, Power 4 school. How about that? Like,
just
Ohio State, you're out of the rankings.
just flat out take you have your preseason ranking, but they don't come into the season with them. Don't say, hey, this is number one Georgia. Just have it. You can have it based off recruiting or whatever the case may be, and then you base off merit the games that are played in September.
Right.
So those first 4 weeks, you get 4 games. If you're 2-2, if you're a 2-2 Michigan, then you don't get to be number 20. But if you start out at 2 and you win one game, and then you play a big game like to Texas, and then you lose, then you win the next one, yeah, you might fuck around and be 20. But if they watch it, there's 4 games overall, and then the rankings come out in the first week of October, they're like, okay, yeah, they're 2-2, but how they look in their 2 wins, how they look in their 2 losses, are they a top 25 team? And then you go from there. But you have actual merit-based rankings versus just name-based.
Well, there was a time where you and I talked about the boxing pay-per-views and having, these double main events and all this kind of stuff. So I was thinking about it. Every year college basketball, they do the ACC Big Ten Challenge. There was the SEC Big East Challenge. Maybe we need something like that in college football. Maybe there needs to be a week where it rotates. This year, the Big 12 plays the Big 10, and then the SEC plays the ACC since they got a lot of rivalries anyway. And then you just kind of rotate from year to year, and you can solve some of this stuff. Because I don't want to guess at who the best teams are, who the best conference is, when you could just settle it on the field. You know what I'm saying? But that's just me. You know what I'm saying? So here we go. Speaking of on the field, we called it Show Me Saturday. It turned into Slaughterhouse Saturday because I knew, even though I was arguing with Mr. Logical the other day because he said, yo, Texas by 21. I knew that game was over after Texas's first drive. And the crazy part about that is they missed a field goal on that drive. And I still knew the game was over.
Yeah.
It was over the moment Texas stepped onto the field. And it was crazy because, you talk about like Alabama, right? Manti Te'o was talking about how they came through the tunnel or whatever, saw some Alabama players, and they were like, yo, it's going to be a long night. I never thought that I could look at Michigan players and see another team and go, oh, damn, they got dwarfed.
Well, like I said, with my whole 35-14 prediction, I just didn't think that Michigan was that impressive over Fresno State. Like I said, the score makes it seem like it was impressive. 3-possession win, 20 to 30 to 10. But like I said, if that guy throws a better screen pass and they score on that play, because literally the corner sat on it. So if the route's a little different, that corner's completely out of the play. Like if he steps in to catch that bubble screen versus staying on the sideline, like if it was one of those bubble screens where he kind of comes over top of the other wide receivers, and he catches it coming downhill, that corner, he was waiting on it, so he would have been out of the play. And I think they score, and the score is 23-16. Michigan probably gets the ball back, runs the clock out, and the game ends with Michigan with the 1-possession victory over Fresno State. And that's how it looked. They looked 1 possession better than Fresno State that whole first week. So when it came to Texas, I was like, Texas is going to dominate because Texas has momentum. They still had their quarterback. They still have their rotation defensively. They still have Sark, who I wasn't a big fan of Sark when he was the offense coordinator in Atlanta, and I thought he was kind of just getting jobs based off of reputation. But he's brought Texas football back, and I just knew they overmatched. And like I said, college football, when you have such a disadvantage at quarterback, it's hard to beat a better team when you have that kind of a disadvantage at quarterback.
Mm-hmm. And so when I look at this, Donovan Edwards, right? He had some good games over the course of his career in substitute for Blake Corum. Against Texas, 8 carries for 41 yards, bringing his season total to 19 rushes for 68 yards this season.
Well, that's 5 yards a touch against Texas. They just couldn't run the ball because they couldn't move the ball because
they Texas couldn't move the ball because they were getting punked. And and Quinn Ewers, he showed that moxie. And that's why that was when I knew the game was over, because on that first drive there was a play where the blitz was all up in his face, and he literally took about 2 side steps as calmly as you can take it, and he just softly threw the ball. He didn't rush it. He didn't force it. He just softly let it go, found the receiver, and I said, well, guess what this looks like? This looks like week 2 from last season against Alabama in Tuscaloosa. I mean, can we go back through the history and find 2 better wins in back-to-back seasons, back-to-back road wins in week 2? But when I look at Michigan, I don't know what I'm looking at. Like, I'm not looking at a top 25 team.
You know what you're looking at?
I'm not looking at a top 30
I
team.
I said it last week. You're looking at the Rich Rod, Brady Hoke, Michigan Wolverines.
And I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan goes 7-5 and they tell Sharon Moore, sorry, we gave you a shot.
Oh yeah, he's out of there.
Because he's going to be the scapegoat. Because Michigan doesn't do NIL.
He's the man replacing the legend. You don't want to be the guy replacing the legend. You want to be the guy replacing the guy that replaced the legend.
Michigan doesn't do NIL. And Harbaugh said, I'm getting the hell up out of here before these sanctions come down. Like Blake Corum and them all gone. J.J. McCarthy and those guys are all gone. So, you're stuck because your school doesn't do the transfer portal. Like, it is different, right? Like, Clemson has a NIL. They have NIL ability. Dabo just doesn't want to do it because he looks at Clemson as, this is my culture. I want players that I bring in here to be a part of the culture. Michigan just doesn't do NIL.
It's the whole, I stuck to the blueprint that we have here. I'm not going to break the mold, and this is what we do here. And you think it's going to buy you time. It's not. Like I said with Dabo, you are a dinosaur in a world full of lizards.
Hey, I will have you know, Clemson put up 66 this weekend.
Yeah, they played against a high school technical high school.
They played Appalachian State. Come on. You know what I'm saying? Come on.
Yeah, like I said, no, I'm not saying that they're not a good team, but when you're a coach getting paid, when your buyout, if they fire you, is $60 million, then that means the expectations every year in and year out, is national championship competitive team on the field every week, no lapses. Like, you can lose a game to another championship pedigree team. Like, if you're Clemson, you can lose a game to...
You can lose to Georgia.
You can lose to Georgia. You can lose, even you got a good Georgia Tech team. They come in a rivalry game and they're 9-2 and you're 10-1, something like that. No one's going to kill you for that. But you can't be 8-4. You can't barely win games that you should dominate. Like, they should beat the brakes off teams like Duke. They should beat UVA, like the teams that haven't been on any of these championship competitive runs in years. You should be handling these games, and then close games or competitive games with some of your bigger competition.
But what
he's in that space.
But what you can't do is lose to Northern Illinois. And, usually when you peel these games back, you look at whether it's football or basketball, you look back through the years and you see something like Wally Zerbiak had 43 points. You see something like this quarterback threw for 400 yards. You see things like that when you see these type of monumental.
Especially in a football game, it's like a running back gets 22 carries for like 206 yards out of nowhere.
Right.
So that's controlling the clock. He's moving the ball at will, 3rd and 6. Hell, we're going to run it because this guy's getting 7 yards a touch.
You know what? Northern Illinois did none of that.
None of that.
I can't even classify it and say that they played well. I can't even say that they played above average. Notre Dame was just shit that day. And Riley Leonard showed the reasons why I wasn't in on Notre Dame in the first place this season. Because you're a quarterback. Fun that you can run. It's cute that you can get me a first down. It's cool that on 4th down, the defense has to worry about you. But I still need you to throw the ball accurately, which you cannot do. And to top it off, not only did they lose to Northern Illinois, they paid Northern Illinois $1.4 million to come to South Bend and tap that ass.
Hey, man, some people like to pay for their pain.
Yeah, I guess so. But then, Mr. Logical. Oh, over in Iowa City. The Cyclones still did not score more than 20. But they scored 20, and it was enough. Iowa went back into being Iowa.
Goal. That was I don't know how you give up the wheel route to the outside when the other team doesn't have any timeouts. I'll give you anything else. Literally, I am standing. If I'm a defensive player, I'm playing from the sideline in. I'm not even playing like wherever you line up in the zone, the hash march. I don't care. I'm over here. I'm standing on the sideline, letting you can throw it this way, but I'm coming from the sideline in. They are playing cover 2 and got beat on the wheel route. I'm like, by a guy who probably hadn't thrown a good pass that's probably the best pass he threw all game. And it'd probably be his highlight throw of the year. I mean, it was a great throw. But you're not even supposed to give that up. You shouldn't be playing cover 2.
There was a time where Cade McNamara was literally in debates because some Michigan fans wanted to keep him instead of playing JJ McCarthy.
He is not. I don't know what's going on. I don't know how Kurt Ferentz does a job. First and foremost,
because he wins 10 games.
Yeah, but they don't score any points.
They go to the Big Ten championship game.
But you're not going to win if I have a team and my quarterback is averaging 2 pass touchdowns per game going into that Big Ten championship, and I got a running back that's averaging 1.5. If those 2 guys play that average, I know I'm beating Iowa.
What's so Aaron Rodgers. What's so disgusting about that though? This was Kurt Ferentz's first game of the season because he got suspended week 1 for tampering and getting Cade McNamara. 13 of 29, 99 yards and 2 interceptions. Like if you're gonna get suspended, don't get suspended for that.
I mean, listen, we all make these crazy mistakes.
Yeah. And then, over in Stillwater, old Piggy came through. That be the Arkansas Razorbacks. They came through, outgained Oklahoma State 648-385. They had the Cowboys on the ropes. Okie Light, as I like to call them. Ollie Gordon, they held him to 17 carries, 49 yards. But they couldn't hold on to the football. 3 of the worst turnovers that you could have against a team that's better than you. So even though you went to overtime, that's the type of thing that gets your coach fired. You got to win this game, especially with your job on the line. You representing the SEC, all this kind of stuff. You the big boys. You can't outgain a team by 300 yards and lose. You just can't do it,
that's 3 extra trips down the field. You should get points.
But Mr. Logical, let me take you on a quick detour out to Eugene, Oregon, because somebody told me that their G5 playoff representative was going to walk into Eugene, a challenger, and walk out a victor.
Yeah.
Yo, that game, in sports, people like to talk about momentum, and a lot of times we see in the NBA playoffs, a team will win, go up 2-1, and you're like, oh, they took control of the series. And then they'll come out and shoot 35% in game 4.
Yeah.
That's what we saw Saturday night. Every time you thought one of these teams took the game, the other one said, hold on, not yet. I mean, Oregon ran back a punt return. They ran back a kick return. They threw a pick 6. The guy he extended his hand to try to score the touchdown before the end zone, Deshaun Jackson style. Dropped the ball, but they gave him the touchdown anyway.
Yeah, he definitely dropped the ball early. And I don't know how you missed that on replay.
I don't know either, unless you just want to get out of Eugene alive. You know what I mean? Like, Not that decided the game per se, like on that moment, but Ashton Genty, like I said, he should be invited to New York for the Heisman ceremony. 25 carries, 192 yards, 3 touchdowns with a quarterback that went 17 of 40.
Yeah, not a good game.
How do you do this? And I'll tell you what, though. I know it's only 17 of 40, but these Boise wide receivers were making some catches, man. Like, he was throwing that ball into the ground, and they were going into the core of the earth to get their arms under that ball.
They have like a former 4-star backup, right? Malachi
Nelson. Yep, he was brought into USC and lost the job there, came to Boise, and then somehow lost to this guy.
All I'm saying, if you're a G5 school and you lose by a possession or field goal,
as time expired,
to the top 10 team, you don't fall out of top 25. You stay where you're at. Like, you just stay, like, even when you play NCAA, like, if you are, like, I played with Missouri, they're tier 3, and you play Ohio State or Georgia, Alabama, there's tier 1. If you lose, you stay where you are. Like, in your little road to college football playoff, you just stay where you are. So if you're 78 during that game, then if you lose, you stay. But if you win, you go up. It's like you're at somewhat of a skill disadvantage because you're playing a top 10 ranked team and you're not a top 10 ranked team. So they definitely shouldn't have fallen out. But you know how college football is. We talk about it all the time. They posture certain teams up to ensure that certain teams get different value in their strength of schedule later in the season. But we'll get into that as the season plays out.
Speaking of which, that's a great segue because a team that I almost included in my top 25 rant that I saved for this moment, the Nebraska Cornhuskers. So they're 2-0. They got Dylan Mahomes out there. And their 2 victories are over a team that beat only a FCS school and a team that just lost to a FCS school this weekend. Mr. Logical, did you see that our Southern Utah Thunderbirds down in Cedar City beat UTEP this weekend?
I mean, it's something about those guys. It's just that mountain air in Utah, man. It's just different.
I guess so, but that's the other team that Nebraska beat. And somehow by beating UTEP and by beating the carcass that was supposed to be Colorado, now Nebraska's ranked in the top 25. And then, of course, they get Northern Iowa this week, so they're not going to lose there. But then they get Rutgers and Indiana. They lose one of those 2 games, and then guess what's going to happen? People are going to say, Nebraska's overrated.
Nah, honestly, this is something I took from the Colorado-Nebraska game. And I think about this, and I don't know if it's a matter of you get a couple of scores to the good, and you just look like you're in a better flow. And if you're a team behind, you look like you're not in one. It just felt as if the play calling for Colorado, I know Shedeur was under pressure, but being down 14 after that pick 6, I just felt like everything was kind of designed to be home run shots. It wasn't a lot of like play action, move the pocket, check down, let the running back make the play. It just felt like a lot of the routes were 10 to 15-yard routes, deep comebacks, deep outs. It just felt like they were going for home run plays, excuse me, when they were down 2 possessions. And then Nebraska get the ball back, and they would just have a little quick RPO, get out to the flat, and just see what you can get. Or they would move. They were playing sideline to sideline with their offensive strategy, and it just looked like it was more fluid. And it looked like every time that happened, Colorado was getting more and more frustrated. And I'm like, if I'm on the sideline of Colorado, I'm like, listen, they're up 14-0, and they're calling these plays. They practice too, so we got to stick to our cues. We got to stay where we need to be, so when they run all of this motion stuff, we can be there to make the tackle. It wasn't like No, he didn't quit. I think he got hit in the head on that targeting penalty that they got earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't put him back in the game when they were down 18. I think he might have been – I I don't know if any reports came out, but it's probably a concussion protocol. Like, go get him checked out because he got hit like right in the possession before that. They're down 18 anyway. It was like, get him in the locker room. Let's get him examined. Maybe get him, check him out, check his eyes out, whatever the case may be, or get him sitting down. Maybe he was concussed.
So do you
I mean, he
think
definitely was saying Dylan Raiola's name wrong in the post-game press conference.
so now that this is Monday, we get to overreact a little bit. So was Saturday the end of Colorado as we know it?
I'm gonna say it's gonna look a lot like last year. I know I probably picked them to do a lot better, but
I picked them to go 7-5.
The offensive line just looked overwhelmed. They were rushing 3 and 4 guys. The one play, I believe it was like a 4th and 1, and it was an RPO. And Shador read it properly. The defensive end crashed down, or like the defensive end stayed, so everyone's getting blocked down, and they just let a linebacker run right through the gap. And that's when I saw him when they put the camera on him. He didn't have his headset on, and he was walking over to the offensive line, and he was talking to him. But yeah, I don't think he has the right type of players on the offensive line for what he's trying to do. I think you need some maulers. You need those country strong Midwest white guys. Like, let's keep it a buck. Like, I'm not saying black dudes can't play offensive line. I'm not saying that at all.
But say, damn, Jonathan Ogden and Michael Orr, geez.
I'm just saying, it's like Clemson has a bunch of white guys on offense, and you're in South Carolina on the border of Georgia. The speed, the black talent speed in that region is out of control.
North Anderson, keep talking about North Anderson.
So then you're in the Midwest. Hell, go to Utah and get some of the Polynesian talent, some of the Pacific Islander talent.
Right next door to you.
BYU stacks. Utah stacks. Utah's starting lineups for the last 4 or 5 years littered with Polynesian talent all over the field.
Right.
And then you look at Nebraska's. When they had one guy out there that was 6'9", 330. Like, that's where you're right there. The farm raised offensive line mauler. You're right in that wheelhouse, and you want to go get NIL players that were 5-star. You're right there in your backyard. Go get some of these guys that really know how to maul.
Well, Dion stays telling us where he fucks up. You know what I'm saying? Because he says things like, I'm going to build this team from the outside in. It doesn't work like that. It's cute. Back in the day, Florida State, free shoes, had Jeff Bowden as the offensive coordinator, son of Bobby. And we had all these 6'5" receivers that jump over everybody. But you can't jump over everybody if the quarterback don't have time to throw the ball. So and
you would think with his son being the quarterback, you would put more emphasis on the offensive line.
Right. And then you got, Sean Lewis got demoted last year. Now he's the head coach out at San Diego State. You put Pat Shurmur in as your offensive coordinator, and it looks like you're running a lot of the same things, but without the actual architect of the system. You keep playing this Charlie Offerdale guy. I don't know if you know his family. I don't know if Prime has a relationship with them, and he's just promised to get this dude time, because you went out and got Dallin Hayden from Ohio State, and he's out here with 5 carries. So I don't
think that other guy, I saw a video clip in the offseason. It's just that they just felt like he just was a worker. Like, he just was a grinder. I saw
Which
a video.
Which is fine. He can play, but he ain't got to start and get the bulk of the carries. And then you figure, as the season goes on, my biggest concern about Colorado when I picked them to go 7-5 is depth and, attrition. Because you went out into the portal, like I said last week, the portal is supposed to be supplementary where you have gaps in your roster, you fill it, maybe you get some depth. You're not supposed to bring the transfer portal in as this is my roster, these are my stars. Because back when you were in the SWAC, you had Power 5 transfers coming down. You had Mike Zimmer on your defensive staff, and you were taking advantage of the SWAC because they couldn't defend your players. They didn't have a lot of the attributes of the players that you were bringing in. But you up here now, everybody's getting these same players. You know what I mean? Like, you got Travis Hunter, but Arizona got a Tetaroa McMillan. You got a Shador.
But he got Travis
Texas
Hunter
has
out
a
of high
few
school.
yours.
He recruited Travis Hunter out of high school. He was the
he got him from FSU. Yeah, FSU was going to get him.
Yeah, so we talked about this, and this. Listen, understand context, but what we discussed according to Dion is like, I think his athletic career, he's probably always been the, without a doubt, best player on his team. One of the most dynamic people on whatever team he played, whether it was baseball, football. I imagine he probably was a pretty good basketball player, and he played his whole career, and everywhere he went, he was never a weak link. He was always, he walked into your building, he moved himself to top 3 of your most important players, no matter what his age was, as soon as he showed up, no matter what the sport was. I think he is probably trying to link that to his coaching, and it's not matching up. He probably has a few more yes men on his staff than he needs. You need a yin and a yang. You need somebody combative. You don't need like this Trump kind of behavior. This I don't know, like what the way people feel about Drake and some of these upper echelon people. Like, you don't need Tom Cruises of the world. Like, you hear about, like, these guys only want people around them that just gonna praise them all the time. You need people that's gonna tell you, like, yo, dog, this offensive lineman group that you have isn't gelling.
You need them
it's
old
not
men
working.
Without fucks to give, huh?
Yeah, you need, like I said, I tell people all the time, man, you need an old dude in a room that has zero concern about the power, quote unquote, of anybody in the room. Because if like right now, I'm a civilian in my job. I'm a civilian contractor, so I'm not in the military chain. So when they say stuff, they don't write my reviews or anything like that. So I'm not disrespectful. I'm not like, I don't have to sit in the meetings like, yep, I think that's a great idea. Because I'm like, nah, that doesn't make any sense. There's no repercussion for me to have that opinion because that's my job for the continuity for my position. Mm-hmm. I don't get a report written by the people who are trying to get me promoted. Whereas, like, some people have to, like, you might have to cower to someone who likes having a yes man around. I worked in units with commanders that were like that. Commanders and chiefs that were just like, hey, they don't want to hear about how their plan is wrong, even though you know everything about it is wrong until you put it into action. And then even after that, they're gonna be like, what did you not do to make my plan not work? It's like I told you in the beginning it wasn't gonna work. And I think he might have people like that on the staff. I don't know if Colorado, I think he's a good coach. I just think he needs an environment to where the school is just as a great of a recruiting tool as he is. Like, Ryan Day in Ohio State. Ohio State recruits the player, and then Ryan Day keeps him there. Like, just the mystique of playing at Ohio State and everything that comes along with that. I don't think Colorado has that, so it's all Dion. Right. So when it goes a little sideways, it's like, I got to get out of here.
Well, go ahead and lose to Colorado State this weekend, Dion, and we'll see what we talk about next weekend, what the city of Boulder is feeling at that point in time. So real quick, just some random notes before we get over to the NFL. Cam Rising, hurt again. He hurt his throwing hand, had his 2 fingers taped together, didn't come back. Utah didn't score again. Keep your eye on that. The mighty, mighty Missouri Tigers over in the other Columbia have not given up a point this season. Granted, they played against Murray State in Buffalo, but impressive nonetheless. I guess Nico is that guy. I guess Nico is next. There's no denying it. He tore apart the Wolfpack this past weekend. And, that's a good question, though. The free weed definitely gets the recruits coming. Rutgers, because, Mr. Logical represents New Jerusalem.
True.
Rutgers going back to his heartland to play against the Hokies this weekend. What I'm saying? So keep y'all eye on that one. Shout out to Idaho, played Oregon tough, beat Wyoming this past weekend. So shout out to the Vandals. Boise ain't the only show in the state. Peyton Thorne, 4 picks against Cal. Cal, that was missing their top 2 wide receivers, their number 1 pass rusher. So good job, Cal Golden Bears, representing the ACC with a win down in SEC territory. Sparty, Michigan State, one of my upset picks from last week. 10-3 in those upset picks, but they beat Maryland, so they're 2-0. Kentucky, I'm just shaking my head at y'all. Y'all allowing the Gamecocks to get College game day. Remember I was telling you the schedule this week? College game day is LSU at South Carolina.
That's exciting.
That is not exciting. We got one for you, Mr. Logical. You ready for this?
Yeah.
You must choose. Lauren Hill or Rod Digger?
Lauren Hill.
I'm going Rod Digger.
Just sustainability.
I'm going Rod Digger.
Even though Lauren Hill did go off the rails a little bit when she was performing at the Vatican.
Shout out to my Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Every year we have the whiteout game. Eastern Kentucky didn't want to play along, so they wore their white jerseys. And you know what? You went home 31-0 losers. Shout out to Brett Bielema, saying knocking off Kansas. So we had another top 25 team go down. Number 19, Kansas go down. So I'm sure he's out at Golden Corral celebrating that. Congrats to Kyle McCord. You were the scapegoat at Ohio State last year. Now you have a top 25 win as a Syracuse Orange, not to be confused with the Orange Men, as they beat Georgia Tech, who, of course, took care of my Seminoles. And then finally, Alabama, I said y'all wasn't going to make the playoffs, and you have done nothing to show me that you will make the playoffs, because whenever you play a team that has a real quarterback, they're going to smoke your ass. It was 14-13 in the fourth quarter against USF. And if USF had anything, and I mean absolutely anything that resembled a quarterback, your asses would have got done. So watch out at Camp Randall this week.
Listen, I'm never going to count Alabama out. Like I said, when I was talking about Deion and Colorado, certain schools are just going to get the players. It's going to be, they probably get 10 players just off the fact that they're going to Alabama and nowhere else. I'm talking about 3, 4, 5-star recruits. They're just they're going to go anywhere else.
Speaking of Atlanta, I guess we
got to get. We're not talking about Atlanta.
Yeah, I guess we got to get to it because, of course, Unc is a Steelers fan. So, even though Justin Fields looked like about what you expect Justin Fields to look like, Kirk Cousins somehow looked even worse.
This, honestly, man, it's just. I mean, I know I don't like the dead air on our live show. My problem is this. We all saw what got Arthur Smith fired. It's not even like you don't need expert level coaching, training, or experience. We all know that it was like this. You have weapons on the Falcons that create mismatches. You got a 6'5", 6'6" tight end, a 6'5" wide receiver. You have the dynamic running back, I believe Bijan goes 6', 6'1", 215, 220. Algier, 5'11", 6 foot, about 225. Those are your weapons. Now, you have to figure out a way to get all four of them the ball. But they don't. They just keep giving it to Bijan and like we're gonna see what happens. And I see if he was grooving, he had 23 touches. I think he totaled maybe like 108 yards. And that's a good game for fantasy. But that'd be good if Kyle Pitts had 6 catches, 80 something yards, and Drake London had 6 or 7 catches for 100 yards.
Hey, Kyle Pitts had a touchdown.
But he had 3 catches for 26 yards. I think he only had like 6 targets. It's like, why are we not first down, first play? I got 2 reads. I'm throwing it to Drake or Kyle Pitts. I'm getting them involved early. Stop trying to trick the defense. I don't need to be tricked. The Pittsburgh has a great defense. They don't try to trick you by moving J.J. Watt around and sneaking him around. Or T.J. Watt, excuse me. They just bring him down the hill, go get the quarterback. They don't, it's not cute. It's like, listen, this is football. My advantage is I have these big receiving targets. Problem is, they don't have any other ones. Ray McLeod is my height. Mooney is my height. You had Jonnu Smith last year. Got rid of him to bring in Dwelly or somebody. Like, it's just the player personnel moves don't make any sense. Now it leans even more into the quarterback decisions. Like, listen, you could have just got Justin Fields if you want to get a fill it out year. But yet you paying this guy $180 million.
Which was something that you actually brought up.
Like, just they could, what Pittsburgh quarterback room should have been in Atlanta. Justin Fields is from Georgia. Sierra's from Georgia. Bring them both in there. Like, the quarterback room for Atlanta could be the room that's in Pittsburgh. Then you let Pittsburgh go get Kirk Cousins or something like that. It made more sense for Atlanta to go get Justin Fields or Russell Wilson, one of the two or both, and then move and do something like, listen, we're going to bolster the hell out. McGarity, the right tackle, has been a bum for years. He has been awful for years.
But the problem
and they never drafted an offensive tackle.
Quarterback rooms, Pittsburgh probably still wins that game yesterday.
But that's the thing. If you do that, then now maybe you move up to 6 and you grab Joe Alt and you put him at right tackle instead of this McGarity guy because he is awful. He gets beat every single week. And it's like, why are we getting so much pressure on the quarterback? You got a good guard in Lindstrom. They drafted a guard out of Michigan a couple years back. It's like they never get the best player on the board in the early parts of the draft ever. Terry Fontenot, literally every year is like, stop trying to outsmart people. Just get the best goddamn mauler you can get. And they never do.
Right. Well, both of us picked Atlanta to win that game. I mean, it happens. But, what I saw was I heard somebody earlier say that it reminded them of Washington Kirk Cousins. I don't know if I'll go that far, but what I will say is, like, Atlanta is just puzzling. Like, they always have talent, but it's almost like Colorado. They have these ancillary parts, the Drake Londons, the Kyle Pittses, the Bijan Robinsons, the game breakers that if you get the ball in their hands, great things are supposed to happen.
But that's the thing.
You don't have the rest of the formula.
The system doesn't make any sense. If you are a team and you're in a bit of a pseudo rebuild, Atlanta rarely is drafting first, second, or third. They're not that bad. They are a 500 or 400 team. They're 7-10. 6 and 11, about 7 and 10. That's been the average rate for like the last 4 or 5 years. They just have enough talent to get you 7 games. They'll blow a couple of games, but they don't go fully terrible like Chicago was for a couple of years in Carolina. So they end up getting 7, 8, 9, or 10. But they're not creative in how they move in the draft to get up. Like the last time they made a creative move was to get Julio. That's like 13 years ago.
That was years ago. That was probably longer than that.
And when they did it, I was like, what? But it automatically paid out because it's like, we have the quarterback. We need to get him the big target. But they also had guys like Sanu. They had like Michael Jenkins. Like they had another guy opposite of Julio that's at least a big target. Now they got 2 5'9" wide receivers out there with Drake London and Kyle Pitts, and they don't throw any of them the ball. And it just and that's the problem. Is like they don't understand. Like, listen, they could have used this whole offseason. They still could have got Judon the trade. They could have got Simmons still because the money was good. They could have drafted the best defensive player. They could have just went all in and bolstering the defense and be like, you know what, we're going to be a wall. And we, like I said, you had Fields that was available. Sure, Cousins was still available, and free agency. You also had the potential. Maybe you go after Dak. I'm talking about this is all like
right.
All before the season started. You had all these opportunities. Like, you know what, we're going to build a wall on defense, and we're going to take a major swing in free agency and get the best available quarterback.
Well,
and it's not even like fantasy wise. It's like you literally had all those opportunities and fumbled 3 of them. And that's the part that just blows my mind.
Well, you brought up the word target a bunch of times in that soliloquy. You know who had 21 targets yesterday?
Who?
Cooper Kupp.
Oh, because Puka Nacua was out.
Puka Nacua is out for 4 weeks. Rematch of the playoff game that sent the Rams home. Another thriller. Detroit in overtime was the most disrespectful team I've ever seen. They said, I dare you to stop me. Oh, never mind. You can't. Back up 5 yards so I can gain 10. So that's how that game ended. But what I wanted to ask you was, I got like a 2-part question.
All right.
What teams, so 2 teams, what team surprised you in a positive way yesterday, and what team surprised you in a negative way yesterday?
Positive, Tampa Bay, 24 for 30, 300-something yards, 4 touchdowns from Baker Mayfield. I know it's an overreaction, and I'm a fan. I'm speaking as a fan. But Tampa Bay just looks more comfortable running their offense than any other team in the NFC South. Even New Orleans put up the 47 points. Like the one touchdown that Derek Carr threw was like back across the middle of the field. And it's like, that's not sustainable. You're not going to get that off every week. But throwing fade routes to the corner to Mike Evans and dropping them in a bucket like that, yeah, you're going to get that off every week. So Tampa Bay surprised the hell out of me. Negative, obviously it's easy to say Cincinnati. From the football that I watched just over the whole weekend, Green Bay kind of surprised me. I thought they played a little sloppy. Philly, and that Green Bay. I know maybe
obviously we got to talk about Jordan Love.
We can attribute that to the field, but that looked a little weird. Decision making. It just was like a lot of like the score being 34-29. It's like going for 2, missed this, missed extra. It just was like a lot of that was kind of confusing.
Right.
Let me see who else. A lot of the quarterback play. Like I watch Atlanta didn't surprise. When I saw the first couple of drives for Atlanta and I saw that first turnover, it was like, oh. And then when I was watching the game, because I was also like hanging out at the beach, I was streaming the game. It was kind of choppy a little bit, but when I was watching the Atlanta game and I kept seeing how many times they were giving it to Bijan, I was like, okay, they don't have a real sustainable plan. What they have is we're going to make this work. We're just gonna get Bijan in the space and he's gonna break one. And it's like it wasn't building. It's not building to like how San Francisco will work. They'll work the flat pass to Husked. They'll hit Kittle, and then they hit you over the top with Debo on the over route. Like they build on their offense. They don't just come straight out and try to just hit Debo on this over route. Like they put you like they run a lot of action, and then they get any running like the zone block. Like it seems like certain offensive teams and offensive coaches just have a better grip on it. And a lot of these guys that are getting jobs because they drink coffee with Sean McVay is really bugging me. And I'm sick of it.
Well, yeah, illegal formations, in the first quarter, I've had the TV on mute ever since. But at some point in the first quarter, the Jets had an illegal formation, and the announcer made note that that was the 22nd of week 1. But here's another week 1 stat. This one is courtesy of Steve Palazzolo. In the previous 5 years, this is how many passing touchdowns we've had in week 1. So going back 5 years, 61, down to 52, 61, 51, 37, and then yesterday, not including tonight's game, yesterday, 33 touchdowns and passing touchdowns in week 1. So real quick, I'll answer that question real quick, and we'll get to Jordan Love. So the teams that surprised me, I would say positively, Seattle surprised me. Their offense, because their defense, I figured would have a good day against Bo Nix. We made mention of, I don't want a rookie starting his first game at Seattle. So, yeah. But their offense looked very fluid. Geno looked fluid. Both running backs came to play yesterday. Tyler Lockett still has it, and Jackson Smith and Jigba is the future. So Seattle definitely surprised me from that standpoint. Negatively, the team that surprised me, which surprises me, is the Bears. Because even though I picked the Titans to win that game, I expected a lot more from the Bears, and not even from the standpoint that I thought Caleb Williams was going to come out and throw for 300 yards, because I mentioned that he was going to come out and try to do too much. And you saw the one play where
you got sacked.
He tried to run all around the field. But what I didn't count on was Will Levis going full retard.
I'm telling you, we just brought up the quarterback set. There's a lot of starting quarterbacks that shouldn't be starting quarterbacks just because GMs, people are afraid to just pick the right guy and keep it simple. Like, listen, I don't want the 5'11" guy. I want to get this guy.
I gotta send you.
The reason that those stats are dropping is like they are starting. Geno Smith is a prime example of let a guy get his lumps and then give him a chance after that. Baker Mayfield, get his lumps, get a chance. Even Sam Darnold to effect is like, listen, he took his lumps, now he gets another shot. Daniel Jones is a guy that's like, I don't know if he's going to get another shot because the Giants are making him look so terrible because they put him out there, I won't say too soon, but they put him out there without weapons. And like they're blaming it on him because he's getting $40 million.
Right.
It's like obviously the cap is pretty substantial because there's guys getting 15 or 20 more $20 million at his position, and they still can pay for a top wide receiver and top tackle and top defensive player. So the money's out there, and you guys own the team forever. You bought the team for like $130 in 1908 or something like that. So they've made their billions hand over fist, so they can pay these guys if they wanted to. My question to you,
one day, I gotta find this video and send it to you because I want to know your thought as far as what was the dumber throw, what Will Levis did, or the throw that I'm trying to find right now. But go ahead.
Oh, you talking about one of those Matthew Stafford throws?
No, this is a college throw. This is Jared Lorenzen against Florida in Chris Leak's first start. Kentucky had a 21-3 lead, and Florida came back. He went to throw, got slung, threw it anyway. Pick 6, lose the game, and that was like number 17 of their 31-game losing streak to Florida. But anyway, we'll get back to that later. But
so this is something I brought up to you when we were talking before.
All
right, so we've seen every team play.
Right.
Good, bad, or indifferent.
Right.
What team do you think their week 1 performance is what we can expect from them all year? Not necessarily they're going to go 17-0 but Tampa Bay's performance against Washington, do you think they're going to play like that all year? Or like the Giants' performance against Minnesota, is that like indicative of how their year is going to pan out?
I think Washington is going to play like that all year. I think Washington is the answer to that question. Tampa Bay, 8 possessions, 4 touchdowns, 3 field goals, and a punt. Jaden Daniels, 16 rushes. The offensive line still doesn't look complete, even though, they went out. I mean, it's game one, but they went out and spent all this free agency money on offensive line. I didn't see any improvement. The defense, the secondary still can't cover anybody. So, so you got two major problems in this NFL that we watched today. You can't block anybody and you can't cover anybody.
Yeah, those aren't good signs.
So that's Washington in a nutshell.
So who's sustainable? Like who else? Good, bad, or indifferent? Like who else you think? There's like their season's gonna look like week one all year long.
So I'm interested. I'm gonna take a scenic route real quick. I'm interested in Thursday night because Thursday night we got Buffalo going to Miami. I need to see more Miami because I didn't like or expect what I saw yesterday. I don't think it's indicative of how their season will go, but I need to see them in another game, to make that determination or not, because there was a lot of boom or bust there. I think the Texans are going to be as good as advertised.
Okay.
I do like the fact that they got Stephon Diggs involved early. You know what I mean?
Simple. Yes. It's so simple. I know I keep going back to my own team, but it's like, God damn it, just get the running back. The running back
He's
is
not being even killed, y'all.
The running back is gonna get touches. It's like if you have, I won't even say any if definitive, like, okay, I gotta get deep. But Kyle Shanahan knows I gotta get Debo the ball early for him to get him going because he likes to hit people.
Right.
And to make the defense have to adapt early. Maybe I get a big play out of it because it's like I'm hitting them so early with my best player. And we've seen a lot of times, remember Randy Moss was playing at Oakland. When they weren't getting him the ball, it just was like, I'm not running these routes hard. For what? Like, if you're not getting these guys involved early, that's why I'm glad they got Stephon involved early. A team, I think their season's going to look a lot like week one, the Giants.
Okay.
I see their season basically.
Oh, I hope you're right because they swept us last year and we play them this weekend.
I can see that. Like, I know Rich Eisen's segment for their show is Overreaction Monday. I'm just going to extrapolate this for the whole season. I think it's a lot of teams that we are who they thought they were. The Giants
found it. Yeah.
I think the Giants are going to be as bad as advertised.
Okay.
I think Cincinnati is going to be more disappointing. I think it's more of their season is going to look like this week. I know it's going out on the limb.
Well, yeah, I didn't pick them to make the playoffs, and I think that we got to have a real conversation. It doesn't have to be right now, but we got to have a real conversation about Joe Burrow because, everybody wants to put him on this great tier, but you got to be great. If you're great, you got to be great all the time.
Yeah, I got like I said, I just think who else do I think is going to have?
I think Pittsburgh is going to look like this all season. Now, whether that is wins and losses,
get a lot of games 20-17.
Yeah,
they're going to have
games where they
kick 4 or 5 field goals.
I don't know, but it's going to look.
I think Atlanta's going to look a lot like they looked in week one throughout the year. It might work. Bijan might pop through and get you those 23 touches and they'll go along with like 2 big touchdowns, like maybe a first half touchdown, like a big one in the second half. Mm-hmm. Like it might pop, but I think because if there's no way you watch the game from last year and be like, okay, I'm going to do the exact same thing this year because that's what they're doing. So I think they're going to look pretty much that way all year long.
I was very impressed.
I think Carolina's going to look. Bryce Young's too little.
I'm not talking about them today.
He's too little. I think they're stuck looking like that.
I wonder if. So I was impressed with the Colts yesterday. I was impressed with the Colts. Anthony Richardson is the definition of feast or famine. He's either going to throw a 50-yard dot, and not complete the 8-yard slant. I think
at one point when he like 10 for 29, but
he finished 9 of 19.
Yeah, it was something crazy. But he
had like 3 40-yard or more passes.
Yeah.
It was like a video game. You know what I mean? But I think the Colts are who they are because I think that they can't cover anybody either. You know, I think their secondary is a weakness. I think that, you know, as Lethal would say, until Gus Bradley is fired, you know, this defense is going to look like that. So it's going to take Anthony Richardson to be Superman, you know, or Josh Allen like, you know, for the Colts to make any noise, you know, and it's basically his first year again because, you know, he missed a bunch of last season. He played three games and didn't even finish any of those.
You still got to slide. You got to slide on me.
Yeah.
The Jets, it could be because they're playing against the 49ers.
Aaron Rodgers' first game back.
They don't look formidable. Like their defense was pretty much getting sliced up this entire because like I said, I'm watching the game on mute. Their defense is getting sliced up. And right now, and this is the thing I don't get with NFL teams. The score is 32-13.
Okay.
You got Tyrod Taylor in there. You got some offensive linemen in. It's first and goal from the 4, 3.5. Why are you running plays? Why don't you just let the clock run out? Like, why are you putting guys out there to where
you're trying to end the game on a good note?
For what?
You know, say go get you a touchdown and finish off positive.
Well, it's still positively a loss. So why am I risking? Because at this point, you got 22 guys out there playing, risking injury, and the game is done. So now you're going to kick the ball off.
Right.
Maybe you do an onside kick. You're risking 22 more guys getting hurt again. And then you're going to throw a Hail Mary bomb.
Well, there's the touchdown.
I'm wrapping this up. Like, you took your starting quarterback out because you know it's a wrap. So why are you out here going for 2?
Alan Lazard, you know. I think that, you know, as I look around the NFL, there's a lot that leaves to be desired. Like, I don't know what Jacksonville is still. Tank Bigsby outplayed ETN yesterday. You know, Brian Thomas got his first touchdown. You know, Trevor, and that throw by Trevor Lawrence is the reason that he got the $55 million on that touchdown pass. The problem is he doesn't do that consistently enough.
Malik Neighbors is already putting in trade requests.
Yeah, you saw that? I don't know what the hell that was back there. That's what he said.
Yeah, he just was like, you know, I was just trying to help him get good throws, but I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. So
I'm telling you, just keep interviewing him. You go get a good one. You go get a great one. He's gonna drop a clip. It's gonna be like, did he say this?
So
he's gonna say like, yo, that dude is ass. Green Bay,
no Jordan Love.
No Jordan Love. I saw a report. It's like 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I think. Like, do you think? This is just me spitballing this. Do you think that if you're Green Bay, because like I said, I think I saw that Malik Willis was the only other quarterback on the roster. Sean Clifford got cut last week. So is it worth grabbing somebody like a CJ Beathard or a Tannehill, or are you just getting a body?
Nah, I think you just run it. You run it down with Willis. He does have some NFL game starting experience. It's not going to be the same. You just get him on the edge. You get him short passes. You just literally you simplify it. You run your running backs more.
The Bo Nix game plan.
You just go 55% pass or 55% run, 45% pass.
Yeah,
because you just live or die with it because because you got Reed. So that's your jet sweep. So that technically you get like the little touch passes. You can get the tosses and reverses. You got Christian Watson on the outside. That's your deep threat. So you have guys that you work it short and then you take your shot. You take your shots there or you hit them with, you know, like I said, these jet sweeps. You simplify it to match the competency and the skill set of your starter. I mean, and that's what you have to do. So, and then, like I said, you just rest on the defense. You put the defense in good positions where you try to move the ball. You let them stay on the sideline and get re-energized because you're probably not going to get a lot of points. Malik Willis isn't going to make great throws and get you points. You might be kicking a lot of field goals. You might be calling a lot of, you know, it's 3rd and 4 from the 15. You might pop a run play and hopefully you get it. If not, you kick the field goal. Like you might have to go. We're playing punt, field goal, touchdown as your construct for your drive. Like, listen, you know what? No turnover. If we get a good punt out of this, we play field position. If we get in the scoring zone, we don't go for it on 4th and 2. We just kick the field goal. And if we get a chance to take a shot off a turnover or something like that, then we go for the touchdown. You just have to build it. Like you have to do it in reverse what you would do with Jordan Love. Because Jordan Love's probably thinking every time they're out there, we're going for a touchdown. You got to flip it when you have a backup in there.
Yeah, they got the Colts this week. So that'll be interesting. Anthony Richardson, we just got done talking about him.
You know he's going to throw bombs, so you pressure him and you hope he makes a rookie throw. And like I said, maybe you get the ball a couple times at the 50-yard line because of turnovers. Or maybe he scrambles and you get like an impromptu fumble. You're going to have to play small ball. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure Matt LaFleur wants his dynamic offense to just score a lot of points. But you might have to be good going the Justin Fields route 18-10 and winning the game and just take that win.
So what you think about those Cowboys?
I think Cleveland is so bad that I'm going to wait until next week. Because his pass rating was like 80.
Yeah, he had 179 yards.
Yeah, 19 for 32, 179 yards. It wasn't like he had like this done. Nothing about the Cowboys' offensive numbers said that they scored 37 points. Or 33 points.
Yeah, 33-17, yeah.
Yeah, like nothing about their stats when you see them individually as like CeeDee Lamb had like 60 yards receiving, I believe. I think Zeke had a touchdown and maybe 35 yards rushing. Like I said, Dak was under 200 yards. Yeah, so if you get me next week, I'll but like Cleveland, I don't know what happened to Deshaun Watson. I think I called it a year ago. Like he might just be done.
Well, apparently he's getting sued again.
I mean, who knows? He's probably always been getting sued.
There's another civil suit that we just got the word about today.
$1 million. Like he can't be out there still asking for ass massages and shit. Like
that's what he's being accused of.
You gotta learn your lesson, dog. Like you can't be out in these streets. All like I'm not trying to be disparaging, but we have social media. And some of the influencers on social media, the female influencers who proudly flaunt the fact that they like to get flued out, not flown out, flued out. Just reach out to them. I'm not trying to just be like dismissive, but it's like if that's the avenue that you're going about your courtship and your entertainment and whatever level of relationship you're going after, then reach out to the people who have put out there publicly, like, yo, this is how I get down. The locker rooms, who knows where and what city. You were in Houston. Houston is probably like the strip club capital of the United States. Like, just get an assistant that's going to get on social media for you and keep it funky and get you your entertainment when you go to these different cities. And don't be trying to get people who don't get down like that to get down like that just off some fetish shit. I know, even though I think it's still goofy and lame, it's dumber to continually get sued for the thing that nearly cost you your whole career. Like he had a $160 million deal from Houston, and I don't know what the hell Cleveland was thinking, giving him $230 in the middle of that, because none of that made any sense. So you lucked up and got fucking $230 million, and you're gonna gamble that away again. It doesn't make any sense.
I gotta ask you, right? I gotta ask you, right?
I'm gonna have an answer. What's good?
If Cincinnati goes into Kansas City and wins this week, will you call it Burrowhead on Monday?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I am, like I said, I think Cincinnati, first of all, Jamar Chase crying for a contract when he got 2 years left in his current one is just mind-blowing.
Hey, that's the league we're in nowadays.
But it's one thing to be like, hey, extend me. But it's like, dog, you got 2 years left. Yeah, a whole season.
It's like that big pun song. Not you again. Go that way.
And they can franchise you 2 times after these next 2 years. So they got you for 4 more years from today. Where is your leverage? You guys need to go to the president of the NFLPA and be like, listen, dog, we need to get rid of the franchise tag. Because as long as the owners have the franchise tag, that's the only way you're going to get your leverage back is if you play through it. Kirk Cousins, Dak Prescott, like they played through their franchise tag and ended up having so much leverage. But you got to be patient enough to play all the way through. You can't be out here I got you until 2028. It is 2024. Calm down and take the 17 million.
More entertaining. More entertaining. Jacksonville hosting Cleveland, or Kamala versus Trump tomorrow.
Next. Honestly, the presidential debate, it shouldn't be comedic, but it probably will be. And it's
no. If Kamala come out there talking about she'll beat him at golf, I'm here for it.
Because he cheats. Cheating at golf is the worst. It's so dumb. You didn't par that hole.
Like, no, but I think that Dallas, New Orleans is gonna be the tone game of the week because I was obviously pretty low on New Orleans. So if they go into Dallas and come out with a win, I will find that to be impressive. When I look at Dallas from yesterday, I think I saw what I needed to see from their defense. But like you said, it's just tough to really take anything away from it considering who the opponent was.
Yeah, the fact that the opponent seems to be falling apart.
Right. And I was at the point where, not to do the free shoe thing, but I was like, yo, where Jameis at? You know what I'm saying? Like, it might be time to get Jameis up in here, and Njoku got hurt as well, so Carolina, to add on top of their woes, it looks like Derek Brown is going to be out for the season. We talked about Puka, getting injured. So, the 49ers just wrapped up the Jets for those of you out there that, weren't able to watch. Jordan Mason, 147 rush yards in relief of Christian McCaffrey against that vaunted Jets defense.
Yo, it was like you could drive a Honda Civic through those holes.
And this is why Mr. Logical represents New Jerusalem, but not them.
I thought because excuse my language. Oh, sorry, audience. I just thought like the new season. I felt like teams are going to be better prepared than they showed yesterday. And everyone's saying, oh, it's, a lot of guys didn't play in the preseason. They do this. I'm like, yeah, these dudes have been working at these plays since March.
Right.
They've been at work for 6 months. So if you open a Broadway play and people don't know their lines, like, oh, well, it's the first time we open on Broadway. Cool. You've been practicing for 6 months. This is the play. This is the blocking scheme. This is your pad level. This is the first read. This is the second read. This is the check down. You've been practicing these plays for 6 months. You went through a draft. You went through free agency. You signed players. You traded players, hired coaches, fired coaches, and you're not ready in 6 months.
Right.
That's just an excuse. You're just subpar. And that's why the teams that drafted in the top 10 last year, 8 of them probably will be back in it. I think the Chargers will be out because I think they'll be squared away. I think Carolina's definitely going to be back in it. Atlanta's probably going to be drafted in the top 10. Like I said, maybe it's just overreacting, but
so I got one for you. I got one for you, and I got a question. It's a question in jest, but
Pittsburgh's still going 6-11.
So here's my stat of the day. The Denver Broncos had 14 possessions against Seattle. 9 of those possessions, they didn't even register one first down. But here's my question for you. How do you average 3.3 yards per attempt and still throw 2 interceptions?
Because your coach sucks. I don't know why everyone's dancing around this. Like, Sean Payton is not a good coach. He's definitely not a good coach for a young quarterback. He is a good coach for a ready-made squad. He was an assistant to Bill Parcells, who's a coaching legend, and then he went to New Orleans and he had Drew Brees.
So
And then
Sean Payton can get Dallas over the top.
No, Sean Payton to go back to the booth. He's not. He was Mike McCarthy. Who would you have that? Mike McCarthy, Sean Payton. If you polled people, they'd be like, "Oh, Sean Payton, Sean
They
Payton."
would say Sean Payton, but it's pretty much the same thing.
The records are identical, and
Yeah.
even in the last couple of years, McCarthy surpassed them.
Yeah.
So by averaging, McCarthy has 36
you know who
wins in the last
who
3
Denver
years.
got this week? They got TJ Watt coming in.
Well, I hope Denver gets a victory just because somebody been blowing up my screen all day long. I hope they get destroyed. I hope the Thin Mountain air just ruins all the Steeler lungs. And I hope they lose 20-17.
Yeah.
20-15, because they're not going to get any touchdowns this game either. It's going to be all field goals.
You know what I mean? Which is funny because that's just how football works, right? They're the only team in their division with a win right now.
And they didn't score a touchdown.
They didn't score a touchdown. Go figure. But the Ravens are going to win.
If this was college football, they still be ranked behind the Ravens. And
I know they'll be like, "Yo, like I like what I saw from the Raiders." Speaking of which,
Raiders. Oh, I forgot about this. Come on.
Yeah.
All right. You are 4th and 1 from the Chargers' 43-yard line.
7 minutes left in the game.
7 minutes left in the game. Harbaugh has former defensive ends playing fullback at 300 pounds. You know he's going to put 3 tight ends in the game and run the ball if you punt it back to him. Nah, we're going to punt it. And then Antonio Pierce's excuse, like, we thought about going for it. You go for it.
Yeah, you make the decision.
You make the call. We going for this. Because it's like, I was talking about, like, once again, I was talking about at work. It's like, either you get it and you keep the drive going, which is more likely than you punting it and getting a stop, knowing that Harbaugh was going to run it. He was not going to throw the ball. He was going to put a hat on a hat and put 2,000 pounds of blocking beef in front of his 200-pound running back, and he's going to run it downhill.
Yeah, and apparently J.K. Dobbins is pretty good when he's not injured.
Yeah, I mean, with Ohio State. And that was ironic because Michigan was getting their ass kicked because of Joey Bosa and J.K. Dobbins. And those guys basically closed the game out for Harbaugh. Yeah. But you knew, like, I'm looking at it like this. Not to waste a timeout, just make the decision. Go for it. Because you make the decision, you go for it. Now, if you don't get it, then you still get to stop there, and then they punt it. You got your 3 timeouts. You got to go further, whatever the case may be. But if you stop them inside the 10 and they got to punt it, they're punting it right back to you.
At the same spot you could have took it over. Yeah,
you could have just kept going from. It's like the win-win. Like the first thing on that list is going for it. Like any analytics, any metrics you would have gone with would have been like the first option is to go for it, and there isn't a lot of logic to not going for it, other than we'll give them the ball. Either way, you're down a touchdown. Maybe you kick the 60-yard field goal and play that. But it's like, even if you're going to kick, the 60-yard field goal, which is like, doesn't happen that often. I mean, it's happened often a lot recently, but 60-yard field goals in game is not common. Getting 1 yard on a play is way more common than a 60-yard field goal, or even stopping a running team who has 300-pound fullbacks with 7 minutes left in the game, knowing that the coach on the other side of the field is going to run the ball. He wasn't going to be cute. He wasn't going to do any bootlegs, no play actions, nothing. He was going to run the ball 3 consecutive plays no matter what.
You ready to overreact before we get out of here?
Absolutely.
Did you see a team yesterday or today that could end the three-peat?
No.
Well,
short of the Ravens. Well, I mean, it's kind of an overreaction because it's like I'm picking one team to win the game in February, and we're in the second week of September. I think the only team really, in my opinion, is probably Baltimore. I know they lost 2 games in a row, but I just feel like Baltimore is probably the only team that I see right now in the AFC.
You hear that, Baltimore that got swept by y'all last year.
which doesn't make, like, football doesn't make any sense at the end. Like, while you're doing it, certain shit is like the shit you do. Like, all right, 4th and 1, inside of 8 minutes left to go in the game, you go for it. Like, that makes sense. The results, you live and die with the results. That throw Trevor Lawrence made to Brian Thomas doesn't make any sense. It should not have been incomplete. It was 3 defenders in the end zone when he let the ball go, and Brian Thomas is coming across the back of the end zone, and no one got to it, and he toe tapped the back. Like, that doesn't make sense. Tua's throw to Tyreek Hill was a noodle. It was up there for so long, just wobbling around, and Tyreek gets it, and he takes it additional 60 yards for a touchdown. So, like, stuff like that doesn't make sense when it's happening.
Right.
Pittsburgh beating Baltimore twice last year, and Baltimore still winning the division a couple of games ahead of Pittsburgh doesn't make any sense.
Well, you
but,
know,
in that sense, I was like, yeah, I don't think anybody's breaking the 3P other than I got Baltimore.
So before the season, I said that Kansas City would lose to the Texans in the playoffs. I'm not backing off of that. But I saw 2 teams yesterday outside of the Texans that could end the 3P. And I know what people are thinking. No, I am not going to say the Buffalo Bills. You know, that we done been there, we done that. Even though Josh Allen did have some Cam Newton going on yesterday,
and that's why I said that's why Josh Allen most like is going to have these gaudy numbers. He's going to have Cam Newton MVP numbers with like the 45 total touchdowns and a handful of turnovers. Because he's gonna run, he's gonna throw 2 touchdowns a game. He's gonna run.
I'm not going to say Detroit. I'm not going to say that. You know, I'm not going to say that. All right. So I'm not going to say Buffalo.
Who you got?
I'm not going to say San Francisco.
Dallas?
Yes.
What?
Dallas? What?
You got Dallas ending the 3P?
I'm not saying they're going to for real.
But that's a team that you think.
Yeah, I think they could. I think they could match up with Kansas City's offense pretty well. You know,
but that's Micah fades.
He does fade
at the end of every year, and then they attack. Teams attack him downhill. Weeks 12 through 18. Teams attack him downhill.
Yeah, he does fade. You know, and then the other team.
Drum roll.
Tampa Bay. They're just not going to get there. You know what I'm saying? But I think they could beat Kansas City. They just wouldn't get there.
I'm not. I like Baker Mayfield. I just don't see him as a. I don't recall seeing him like going toe to toe with. I know quarterbacks don't play against each other, but I don't recall an NFL game where it was like a battle of this quarterback came out, got team into end zone, big game. Now Baker, you go do it. He had that one.
Hold on, let me stop you. I was just joking. I was going to say Detroit, but he told me don't say Detroit, so I just had to make up something.
But he had the one game where Mahomes went out when the neurologist made him. Made him leave the game, and then Chad Henne came in and threw that pass to Tyreek Hill. He had that matchup then, but even then, like I said, he had an opportunity for a couple of drives, to make. And I like.
No, I'm sticking with Houston. I'm sticking with Houston. My pick before the season, I'm gonna stick with it.
Yeah.
But no, I was going to say Detroit, but he called me out and told me don't say Detroit. So I tried to make up something.
I didn't like the way Detroit closed out that game. I thought they had it in hand. So when it ended up in overtime, I was
yesterday was a perfect example of why people don't trust Jared Goff, because he just has these games that are nondescript. He didn't necessarily play bad, but he just has these games that Stafford was trying to take the game away. Like Stafford came out there with the intent to do harm, and Goff just kind of went along for the ride versus looking like he was in the moment of.
But sometimes that could also be akin to, don't try to do too much. We know Matthew Stafford's history in Detroit. He probably feels a certain way about when he goes in that building. He wants to show the old fans who probably still love him and the fans that don't respect him as much, or maybe even the ownership group, like, hey, you traded away, the best draft pick you ever had. And maybe he goes in and he throws it up. Maybe he checks the too many pass plays. Instead of like, you know what, let me just run the ball. But it's like, you know what, I can make this play. Hence why Cooper Kupp gets 23 targets. Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, it could, like I said, I think Jared Goff just has a temperament that fits, because his coach is way, just like biting kneecaps. You have the coach that kind of like balances it out. Andy Reid, Mahomes is like, he wants to go for everything. And Andy Reid's like, no, listen, we're gonna punt it, and then on the next possession, we're gonna do this trick play to Worthy, and it's gonna go for a touchdown. It's like, all right, cool, sit down, and they'll sit and chill.
You want to go for it on fourth down? I'll call the fourth down play on the next possession.
Yeah, I know what you want to do. We'll punt it. We'll get the ball back. We'll run that first down next time, and we'll see what pops. He's like, all right, cool. But you kind of need that kind of balance. It's like, the maturity between Jalen Hurts and Sirianni. Imagine Sirianni coaching Will Levis.
Yo, that would be hard knocks for real.
It would be like June Jones and Jeff George on the sideline.
No.
It would be like, the first possession. Like I told you, I get that you want to be like up, and I guess that's his personality. But like, you don't perform as well on the field as you rah-rah on the sideline. And he does it every single time I see him come off the field after a bad throw, or maybe the receiver ran the wrong route. He come off the field like he's number 8 for the Jets. Like, no, you number 8 for the Titans, player. Calm down. Stop yelling at these people. Go put your mayonnaise in your coffee and calm down.
Especially after that pick six he threw yesterday, he better shut all the way up.
Yeah, they should be running that back on film like this. You seeing that?
Yeah. But on that note, y'all, we will be back Thursday with picks. Get you prepared for the weekend. Like I said, not too much of a college football slate to get to, but it always seems to work out. You know what I mean? And of course, we got NFL Sunday night football, Bears at Texans, Monday night football, Falcons and Eagles. So let's get it popping, y'all. See you in a few days. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. We love you. And we out. Peace.